Should you hold your pen here or here? Let's find out. When you first start writing more aware, let's say, and use good pens and stuff, you may wonder what the right height is to hold your pen. So should you hold it near the tip or high up? What writes better? What writes faster? What's more readable? 1 inch. The answer's 1 inch or 3 centimeters. I thought I'd do a little test and try out different pens like this one and this fountain pen and just see and measure how far off I'm holding it from the tip. And then I'll discuss some science and let's see what science has to say about it. But first, thank you so much for watching. If you like these kind of videos about pens and handwriting in general, improving your handwriting, make sure to subscribe. But this video is actually part of a larger series. I did a full guide on how to hold your pen properly. And it's actually my first video. I'll link to it in the description on the card, I guess. I'm new to this, so I'm not sure. But I'm trying, and go check that out. It's a full-length video on how to hold your pen properly. So if you're starting out, want a good resource, go there and you'll be fine. Okay, so there's another video. It's all gravy. Now let's discuss some major pros and cons about holding the pen too high and too low. There are actually advantages to both, and well, let's just start off by saying writing is all personal preference, right? So just try things out, check what works for you, and also each pen requires a different height and grip, because some pens are thicker, some pens are thinner, other pens are just rubbish. So you gotta press harder or softer. So make sure to just try out the different heights for different pens. There is actually a straightforward answer, and I'm not going to withhold it from you, so let's just be done with it. You hold the pen as high as you have a natural balance point. So that means you usually tend to hold larger, more heftier pens more high up, and the lighter, thinner pens near the nib or the point. And to prove that point, I'm going to dive in and do some samples and some tests, science tests, that is, mind you, to show you the difference. But first, some more pros and cons for you. So if you hold the pen near the nib, you get more control, which is good, right? So it allows for smaller handwriting, but it also strains the hand more because you have to use smaller motions. And you actually have this technique, and I'm not sure what the name is exactly, where you use the entire arm. I guess the standard American cursive technique uses the entire arm, or a hybrid, so you use the fingers and the arm. And that's actually good for reducing strain in the hand and cramping if you write for long periods of time. And the larger motion results in, well, I guess, more relaxation in the long run. But I find it more relaxing to write very small. And so I hold my pens quite close to the nib, actually. But you need a lighter pen. You need a wetter pen, mostly. So a good fountain pen, you can write real small because you can write real light. If you hold the pen higher up with a more bulky pen like this one, your handwriting actually gets larger. It also makes it more consistent if you're not very skilled at handwriting yet, but you also don't train to get more precise. So that's food for thought. For most people, higher up is better. And for lefties in particular, if you hold the pen a bit higher up, it allows you to see under your hand what you're writing, and you don't go over the ink as it's drying. So I guess that's a very good thing, very large advantage, but you'll probably want to get a thicker pen with a bit more body, a bit more bulk to it. Another thing is the angle at which you write. So if you hold the pen further from the nib, the slope, the slant decreases, which gives you more ink flow actually. The ink can move more freely, and this is only the case for fountain pens of course, but in case you are thinking of writing with a fountain pen or are writing, as you should, I think, if you want to improve your handwriting, definitely get a fountain pen. But the angle decreases, which allows the ink to flow more freely and you get a bit wetter pen. If you want to write more dry, you can hold the pen more towards the nib, and that allows you to increase the angle, but you'll find that most fountain pens don't really write that well. A ballpoint pen is a bit easier in that matter, so the angle doesn't really matter that much, so you can hold it wherever you want, and I find myself holding it more towards the nib just to be more precise. Also, putting down pressure seems to be a bit easier when you are closer towards the nib, and on average I guess most people hold it about 1 inch from the nib, which means all these grips are actually too short, but that's for the pen designers to figure out, not for us. I like to get pens that are straight, the body and the grip are one straight line, so you can just grab it wherever you like. So this pen, I tend to hold it about here, I guess. So let's measure that. That's about, so now the science begins. That's about 3 centimeters, if you can see that. So that's about 1 inch. And then I have this very nice Sheaffer Targa, which is a finer nib, and I tend to hold that one more towards the nib, actually very close towards the nib, although it does vary from day to day, and that gives us about 1 to 2 centimeters probably, which is like 3/4 of an inch. And then this very cheap Sheaffer Award, which is actually quite a decent everyday pen. It's a bit rough, but it flows quite nicely. I hold that one, so the grip is quite okay, but there's this bump in the body, which always annoys me, because I tend to hold it exactly on that point. Like, well, that's how these things work, I guess. So that's about 4 to 5, almost 5 centimeters. So that's like 1 inch and a half, I guess. That's very high up. So because of this bump, I probably hold it a bit further up. So now for the last, oh, I actually have 2 more pens. Let's do this fountain pen, this Parker IM, I guess. This is a very small pen, which I like. My hands are pretty small. And I hold that very close towards the nib. So the balance here is very much towards the nib, I find. So let's measure that. 1.5 centimeters, so that's half an inch. That's not very far from the nib. And that allows me to write very, very small, which I like. But I don't post my pens. I tend to not do that. If you do post, so posting is putting the cap on the pen. Don't tell anyone. It moves the balance point further back, so that allows you to hold it more in the middle of the pen, right? So, and that's especially good for people who hold the pen in the lateral position instead of the dynamic position, so a closed position with the thumb crossed over the pen. And if you want to know more about that and a full explanation on the 4 most common types people hold the pens and which one you use this video or this one, I'm not sure. Let's see, I have this very thin fine liner here, and well, yeah, that's like a precision instrument, I guess. So let's see. Yeah, I hold that very close towards the nib as well, about 2 centimeters, which is like 3/4 of an inch. And that allows me to have very much control over the line. So the finer points and slimmer pens, I tend to use a more close grip, and the thicker ones more towards the back. And when you post the pen, it moves the balance point back, and it allows you to hold it higher up. So that's a good tip for lefties as well. If you find you want to hold the pen higher up, try and post it and see what happens to the balance. So, do I have any more for you? Yeah, I guess that's it for today. Every pen has its own balance point. For most people, holding the pen a bit further up, like so, like 3 centimeters, like an inch from the nib, seems about right. And just try things out and experiment for yourself what you like and what the pen requires of you. Listen to the pen. And on that note, I'll say please like and subscribe. This is a new channel and I'm putting a lot of effort into it, and I'd really like for you to join me to improve your handwriting, to love your handwriting, and to love to write. See you next time.